For the group practice exercises, it would be good for you to do it yourself or work with another person or two and try to do as much of these functions as you can, and then when you get stuck, to watch me do it. However, let's do this first one together. So it says create a user-defined function named add squares. I'm just going to copy that so I have it. That squares the amount of each cell in the input range and then adds them together. Okay, so down here we have it ready, and it's asking for each square in this yellow area, B8 through C11, to square the number and then add them up. When we're done, we should get to 34. Okay, let's do that then. And I'll come over here and say function. And put that in. Now, what do we want in this function? Well, we're passing it a group of cells, a range of cells. I'm going to call my variable RNG, and it's a range. That means one or more cells. And what will the function return? It will return a number that could have decimal points. I'll say as double. Now, we're going to look at each cell individually, square it, and then add it up. So I need somewhere to keep that information on one cell at a time. So I'm going to dim cell. It could be any name. I just use this name to make it easy on myself. And then I'll say as range. Again, one or more cells. Let's go ahead and create the control for this. We want to look at each cell in that range. So I'm going to say for each cell in RNG, and I'll do something and then say next cell. Okay, what do we want to do? We want to add to the add squares. So I'm going to put add squares equals add squares plus then the value of the cell. So, and I could say times okay. I'm going to turn this as a capital C, and that makes it easy to see that I haven't made a mistake. So I come down here and you'll notice these immediately turn to capital C's. Or I could just say, instead of times cell value, I can say to the second. I think we've got it now. Let's go check it out. Come over here and I click up here and I hit enter. And yes, it went through and picked up every one of them. We've got the same amount as over here. What if I changed one of these to say 10? You'll notice the amount immediately changed because it's looking at all the input cells, and Excel will automatically recalculate anything based on the input. Okay, so that worked pretty good. Let's try another one. Your email program requires each address to be separated by a semicolon. So you want it to look something like this. For these addresses, joe3@byu.edu semicolon, glg4, and so forth. So we want to have something called my email list. And you'll notice I've already stubbed that in right here. Okay, so I'm going to copy the name, escape. And let's go write the program for it. Why don't you try first and think about it? It is very, very similar to what we just did. So use that as a template and try to figure out how to write this new variation of that program. Okay, let me help. Let me at least stem this in to begin with you. Email list, and it's going to take a range. This time I'm not going to bother to define the different variables and what types they are. Excel will just treat them all as variant, but you'll see it will work just as well for our purposes. If we had lots of these, then it would probably be a lot more efficient to go ahead and define our variables. But I'm going to show you the minimum that you can do and still make it work just as well. So I'll tab in, and we still need to dim a cell. So we can use the same loop. That cell needs to be looked at for every cell in range. Notice where we just have one for loop, I don't need to put even cell next cell. Okay, why don't you take a moment and try to figure out what it should do each time it goes through this loop. Okay, I'll help. Control V, email list equals email list. And this time we're going to concatenate it with what? That's right, the cell value. Now notice I didn't put .value on there. That's the default, so it assumes that. But then I'll put on the semicolon. So now if we click off of there, everything's capitalized. Oh, how am I going to capitalize cell again on this? And I think we're ready to go. So let's go try it out. Again, this looks very much like this one. The only difference is, basically, is what's going in here in the name of our cell. Yet the output is going to be very different. One is a string and one is a number. So we'll come over here. It's on here. I'll click up here and hit enter. And yeah, we got it. Joe3 at byu.edu, semicolon, glg4 at byu.edu, semicolon, and so forth. Okay, that worked very well.